Hi, I'm Steve Sellers with Omen Comics, and today we're going to talk about the secret origins of Marius Decimus Longinus. I think a lot of this is going to come back to the formations of the Guardians of Elayim. And again, for those who are really coming into this unfamiliar with the character or the series, just kind of keep in mind that the idea behind Guardians is that a group of people from Roman era Jerusalem end up killing a god, and because of that, they have to go through time and space to repair damage that's been done to the timeline as a result of that. Marius is our main character. He is a Roman centurion, and he was the one who delivered the killing blow to the god. And so, because of that, he's the one who really has the most to do in the way of redemption. He has the most in the way to do in terms of putting right what once went wrong, as it were. And so, in many ways, he's the main character of the series, and everything else is really about his own quest for redemption. And everybody there, I wouldn't say is just there along for the ride, but a couple of them are. But I would say that generally speaking, they're on that quest with him, largely because of his actions. So, because his are the ones that I would say are the most damning, literally, and the most damaging to the timeline. So where did the idea of Marius came from? Well, from the start, I knew that Saint Longinus was going to be a part of this story. Because Mike, not only when he gave me the basic outline of what he wanted to do, had made it clear that there were certain kinds of characters that he wanted. And he said that one of them at least really should be a Roman, and maybe like two or three. And so one of the ones that I knew that I wanted to deal with was the Roman centurion. Because I really wanted a team that explored all the different walks of life of Roman Jerusalem at the time of the death of this person. And if you look at the first issue of Guardians, which is on the stands now, I think you should get that idea across reasonably well. But I knew I needed the perspective of the Roman soldier, somebody who, wasn't like necessarily high up, but somebody who was high enough up that, he would have the perspective of the officer class, mainly, but also close enough to the soldier class that he would be able to relate to that point of view. So that's Marius. Okay, I knew I needed a character that would fill essentially that role. But the idea I basically had was an idea of, okay, what if he's basically like Captain Rome? Because much like Captain America is an embodiment of his ideals and values and whatnot, I wanted Marius to represent the values of Augustus-era Rome. Not necessarily Rome at the time of Tiberius, which is when this takes place, but more the ideals of what ancient Rome wanted to achieve. And so, to me, that was the Augustan ideal at that time. There certainly would be other emperors that would embody it maybe a little better, particularly during the Five Good Emperors' reign, but this took place before that, so it wouldn't have made sense for Marius to really have wanted to embody that. So clearly, at that point, you think of Augustus because he's the one who started the empire. He took the reins of Julius Caesar and ushered in the transition from the Republic to the Empire. And this is who Marius wants to represent. This is those soldierly virtues that allowed Rome to conquer the known world as it was back then. But at the same time, you also have the idea of respecting household gods, of respecting the family, the traditional Roman family as it was during that time. These are the kinds of things that Marius embodies or tries to. The problem is that I wanted to also acknowledge the problems with ancient Rome in the character as well. So it's like, okay, you have somebody like Steve Rogers who represents the ideals of America, and you have somebody like Marius who embodies the ideals of Rome, But what if some of the realities of ancient Rome are also in the character? And so, what is an example of that? Well, for me, it's blind obedience. The idea that a soldier is supposed to obey no matter what, even if those orders, sound wrong or, are morally compromising, even if it means, hurting innocent people, if it's for the good of the empire, that's what you did back then. And Marius is that guy. I mean, he's somebody who was basically given the order, to kill this guy. He's not doing it because he hates him. He's not killing this god because, he doesn't like him, or because, he's cruel, or because he's, thinks differently of him, for any other reason. It's, he's just like, this is the order I've been given, and I have to support the empire. I have to support my country. I have to support my family. All of these things, these values, causes downfall. So while Marius embodies a lot of good qualities, these qualities, taken without thinking, or without critical thought about what he's doing or the implications of them, the idea that obedience in itself is a virtue, this is something that I thought would be an interesting flaw for a character like this. And so, even after he joins the Guardians, I still want that to be part of his problem. And so, Marius ends up having to confront the realities of what he actually is doing and the harm that he's actually causing, and having to question, okay, am I going to go to hell for this? Am I going to be thrown into the pit for this? Because what he does is such a crime, to the Shakur, who run heaven, that he is in risking damnation in following his duty. And so, presented with the realities of what he's done, does he continue to follow his duty? Or does he decide to bend his principles a little bit or change them? And so that's the question that, to me, embodies what Marius is about as a character. And if he strays too far from that, is he still the honorable soldier that we see in the first issue, or at least in the beginning of the first issue? So, I mean, all of these things comes together, and he's going to have to question his new authority that he's given from the Shakur as well over time, because is he just changing one master for another? And that's actually a question that other Guardians will be asking him. Other characters that he's going to be running into will be asking him, is whether or not that's a good thing or not, whether or not he should be doing that. Certainly, characters like Kabosh, who have suffered under Roman rule, are going to be constant reminders to him that maybe Roman rule has not always been for the best, or that there are ways in which he can improve, the way that he could be dealing with people. And so, all of this comes in importance, but I also want to show that also a little bit with the Trojan War arc that we see upcoming, because I really want to make Marius ask the question, is what I've been fighting for worth keeping? Because the entire story of this Trojan War arc, gives him an opportunity to say, okay, either we fix this, but if we fix this, Rome will always have existed the way that it has. Or do we change the past? Do we change what happens and then, not have Rome exist? And if so, how does that change the reality? And does that make things worse or better? So that's kind of like where I want to go, like with the first few issues for Marius, and everything's really about making him question his decisions, question his actions, question his commitments. I feel like that's where the core of that character is. So, he has people in his camp like Ileana, who is the daughter of Patrician, and who he's known for a long time, and who knows him better than anybody else starting out. But then he has people that offer him contrary viewpoints, like Kabash, like Nazrin of Parthia, who looks at things from the perspective of a princess of a different country. Like Ronan and Rivka, who are people who lived under the Roman occupation for years. So, all of them offer him different viewpoints. And to me, that's why it was important to have all these different viewpoints represented in Guardians, because you want Marius to think about these perspectives that he has not seen, because he has been, up in the Roman barracks for most of his career, and he's just been doing his job and not really thinking about what the consequences of his job has been. So, so when you're thinking about how Marius really came to be, those are the kind of the main issues. There are some things as well historically. I like the idea that he is the from the family of career soldiers. That's really kind of like what formed a lot of his values, and why he doesn't really question his duty that much. His grandfather, in my mind, was at Actium. His father fought in the Germanic campaigns, in the early reign of Tiberius, and so all of these perspectives, these people who have fought in wars and who have shaped Marius in the way that he thinks. Somebody who is the younger son of a large house and really stands to inherit not very much. So in a way, Marius is very much comes from an average soldier class viewpoint, and all he's seen are soldiers. All he's known is soldiery. And so, the whole idea of time travel, going through different times, different places, and meeting different people, will give him those different perspectives to make him think, okay, maybe there's more to the world than the Empire. Maybe there's more to what I'm doing than just serving, masters, and doing so, without question. Maybe I should be questioning some of the things that they give me and making better decisions. And so whether he does that or not, well, we'll see that in upcoming issues of Guardians, and probably also a little bit in Dark Oracles, which also focuses on the Guardian characters. So he'll be making some appearances there. He does appear in Ileana's story as well, so you'll be seeing him there as well, and also in his own piece towards the end of that series. So we'll go ahead and leave it to you there. Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, hit the magic bell for notification. Please support our books at Revelation Comics and at Omen Comics, and please support us on Patreon if you like our books and want more. So until then, thank you very much, and until next time, this is Steve with Omen Comics signing off.